Hello and welcome, Worn One. Please sit, relax, and allow me to tell you a story. My name is currently unimportant. What is important is up to you. I shall tell you the story of Kalia and the Greenskin checkpoint. A bit of a warning. This story is based on events in another's world, by the way, so details like proper names and such will be left out. See if you can guess what it is by the time I am done. Before delving into it proper, here's a little bit of a background. This story takes place many thousands of years in the future, where humanity has ascended into the stars and controls an empire spanning much of the known galaxy. Unfortunately, however, both progress and culture have stagnated somewhat, with old technology revered as divine relics and worship of historical figures as demigods or gods being commonplace. Life within this empire is not all well either, as the empire is beset by enemies from within, without, and beyond. Aliens threaten to overrun the empire, traitors seek to defile it, and demons from a parallel dimension want it to fall. In this star-spanning human empire exists a secret police-type organization with 3 branches, one each for the great threats that want to ruin the empire. One of these branches, the one that Kalia belongs to, specifically deals with demons from that parallel dimension. She is a new figure within the organization, but one with both power politically and personally. Unfortunately for Kalia, however, there is corruption amongst her organization's ranks. In fact, a rogue member of her organization threatens to destroy all her work and destabilize a good part of the empire. This story, however, does not involve Kalia confronting this rogue agent. This story follows her on her path to get to that rogue agent. After much investigating, she discovered that the rogue agent was currently operating on one of the Empire's worlds that was currently under siege by green-skinned aliens. These aliens are not what you may first think. They are a crass species of humanoids that grow and multiply like a fungus. Their genus is vast, their bodies built tough like trees, and their speech consisting of a broken and cockneyed version of English. Perhaps worse still, their technology does not make sense to the rational mind, as they cobble together vicious constructs and weapons of war out of scrap and mundane things. Many liken their works to something out of a scrap heap that functions to the contrary of rational thought. Talk of the nasty greenskins aside, Kalia and a few of her close compatriots, as well as draftees from the Empire's military, had headed down to the planet to try and seize this rogue agent. On the way down, their landing craft was shot down by the Greenskins, and they had to proceed on foot to the housing complex where the rogue agent was said to reside. Unfortunately, a Greenskin base lay between Kalia and company and their destination. From what they were able to observe, the base functioned as a fuel depot of sorts to the Greenskins. The Greenskins believed that Kalia and her company had been killed in the earlier crash of their craft. The element of surprise was on their side. Knowing her skills and wanting to keep things covert, Kalia elected to sneak into the camp alone. Her plan was to secure a mode of transportation for herself and her compatriots and destroy the base, all while keeping her presence an unknown. It is important to note that Kalia was among a specific type of people, those with strange powers granted by tapping into the parallel dimension, the one that has all the demons. Although there are many reasons for this power, some bordering on genetic predisposition, Kalia largely relied upon foul sorceries to get what she wanted from the parallel dimension. She had used this power to create a demonic familiar she called Alma, which had a number of powers including shape-shifting. Alma normally took the shape of a large, hairy spider the size of a dinner plate. However, to stay hidden, she had taken on the shape of a small ornament and hid in Kalia's hair, albeit with an omnipresent spider theme. Few knew of Kalia's treacherous power, and she preferred to keep it that way. She would lose her position and be hunted as a witch if anyone knew. Background details aside, Kalia surveyed the checkpoint and figured the exact method as to its destruction. It was late in the day and darkness had fallen. The night would be a great ally. Kalia bid her friend stay out of range and sight of the checkpoint and slipped within. She did her best to remain crouched and as inconspicuous as possible. This is where our story begins. Although she did her best to remain stealthy, that did not stop her from being spotted. Kalia had succeeded in getting just within the camp's wooden rampart-esque walls before someone noticed her. Unfortunately, a greenskin lookout from one of its many subspecies had spotted her. The greenskin was the size of a small child. Like many of its kind, it wore only a small leather jerkin and wielded crude weapons, bladed or otherwise, in its defense. Its eyes went wide and it made to scream in alarm. Kalia panicked and tapped into the parallel dimension to slay the small greenskin. Except nothing happened. Kalia was sure she was doing everything according to her blasphemous knowledge, but her mystical attempt had simply failed. Somewhat taken aback, but still horrified, the small greenskin once again started to scream. Frustrated, Kalia seized Alma, disguised as a hairpiece, and pitched her at the spotter. Alma transformed mid-flight into her normal spider form. The spotter's cry was cut short and replaced by a gurgling sound as Alma landed on his face and wrapped her spider legs around the back of his head. Kalia watched as the spotter slumped to the ground and the gurgling ceased. Partly to be sure, and partly because Alma was psychotic, she broke the spotter's neck with a twist of her legs. Kalia knew that someone had heard the lookout scream and would certainly be coming to investigate. Sure enough, another watchful greenskin appeared. This newcomer was just like the first one, a child in size and part of the same subspecies. It was walking along the wall and had not seen Kalia yet. Kalia focused harder this time in channeling the power of the parallel dimension. For her extra effort, she succeeded. Using the unnatural power granted from the other dimension, she beckoned the blood come free of its green-bodied home, and come out it did. The greenskin could only manage a cry of surprise before he died, blood flying free of his body. The blood floated through the air a few feet from the greenskin's corpse, before cascading to the ground like rain. 2 lesser greenskins dead, untold more to go, thought Kalia. She breathed a sigh of relief. Alma quickly returned to her hairpiece form and hid within Kalia's hair once more before they moved further into the base. Kalia only had a little bit of time before the base became alerted to her presence. The dead lookouts would be discovered soon, and she had to complete her objective before that happened. Luckily enough for Kalia, no other lookout spotted her as she slipped further into the base. She had found the fuel stores, massive tanks like water towers, but with volatile fuel instead of water. She set about rigging them with explosives, only she realized one problem. She had forgotten to get the demolition charges before she snuck into the base. She cursed and fumed for a solid minute. She only stopped when Alma made a strange sound, a sound like clearing one's throat except they were a hairpiece, and that got her rage under control. Kalia quickly made a plan. She did not like it. If she had simply been aware, then this plan would never have needed to exist, but it was the only thought she had. Tapping into the parallel dimension once more. Tapping into the parallel dimension in Kalia's world allows one to do pretty much anything. So vast is this power that it often gets equated to magic. Unlike magic, however, most uses of the parallel dimension can be highly dangerous. Sometimes simple failure will do nothing or result in the immediate unexistence of its user. What Kalia was about to attempt was extremely reckless and dangerous. Only the insane or stupid try to stun like this. Kalia was going to rip open a hole in the fabric of space and time, a portal if you will, with one end at the base under the fuel storage tanks and the other among her friends outside the camp next to the demolition charges. Kalia would jump through, grab the charges, and then jump back. The portal would only be open for a few seconds. Those few seconds could forever break Kalia's mind, or even remove her from existence. It could even get her possessed with a demon, and she could destroy everything she knew and loved. Or nothing could happen. Just about anything is possible with these types of things. Kalia shrugged and began the ritual. She pricked her finger with a knife and used the blood to etch out a crude circle on one of the base's walls. She then commanded the portal to appear. With a cough and a gust of wind, the portal burst to life and she hopped through it. Kalia's compatriots were bored mostly. They had to stay quiet and hidden for however long it took Kalia to accomplish the mission. That amount of time could be a few minutes or a few hours. Kalia's compatriots were mostly soldiers, and they had to refrain from their usual recreational activities, like card games or storytelling, because they had to keep quiet. And then the portal appeared. With a sound like ripping fabric, a hole like a burning wound appeared in the air, and Kalia with it. Most of the troops stood in shock. "Sorry, forgot something," hissed Kalia as she quickly scooped up the satchel of explosives and disappeared back through the portal. In much the same way as it had appeared, only in a frightening reverse manner, the portal closed and Kalia disappeared. Kalia's compatriots were dumbfounded. Many jaws were dropped and eyebrows raised. Within a few seconds, many began asking questions. Fervently, but quietly. They wondered what had just happened. Kalia would tell them in great detail when she finished the mission. Kalia reappeared in the Greenskin base with a foul burping sound, the portal closing behind her as she walked through it. She felt as though she had just drank a whole gallon of nightmare fuel going through that portal, but at least she wasn't dead or forever damaged. Or worse, turned into a demonic puppet. With practiced ease, Kalia set the explosive charges amongst the fuel containers. She would detonate them remotely once she was safely away. After finishing her work, she looked for a vehicle of some kind. She was in luck. The Greenskins had a makeshift garage within a short distance of the fuel storage. It made a certain kind of sense. Kalia snuck over to the garage. No sooner had she rounded the edge of a garage bay when she came face to face with a Greenskin. This one did not belong to the same subspecies that she had encountered earlier. This was a proper Greenskin of one of the higher subspecies, perhaps even the highest. The Greenskin was nearly twice as tall as Kalia and almost 3 times as thick. He made Kalia look like a child by comparison. This Greenskin bore many of the modifications that his kind liked to give the various leaders of differing fields. He was wearing a smock-type thing, stained black in spots, probably from oil. His left hand was a regular Greenskin hand, but his right hand had been replaced with a pair of chainsaws wrapped around a 2-fist-sized hydraulic claw. Probably for, quote, vehicle maintenance, unquote. The Greenskin had some other circuitry, and possibly even some charged coils protruding from his back. Kalia could almost hear something about being bad at her job in Alma's voice. Kalia could almost hear something about being bad at her job in Alma's spidery voice as the Greenskin looked at her in surprise. His gnarled features quickly recovered and twisted into a gnarly grin. Kalia was never very good at deciphering Greenskin speech, even though Greenskins and humans spoke the same language. He said, or so Kalia had thought, something about how he was going to kill the crap out of Kalia and use her blood for engine grease. He raised his modified right hand, chainsaws already whirring with an intent to kill her. Just with a lookout before her, Kalia thought fast and tried to pull the lifeblood from the Greenskin's veins. She tapped into the parallel dimension with ease. The power of the other world flowed through her, and she felt like she could do anything. She beckoned the blood to come free of the Greenskin's body. The blood would not budge, though, for this Greenskin was far too tough, and his lifeblood stayed in its home. Kalia wanted to try again, but the energy from the first attempt kept flowing into her. It was like an undammed flow of water. The power kept coming, and Kalia could feel reality around her bending from its presence. She could hear screaming, and existence began to buckle. The voice that screamed was not human, and it shook every fiber of her being. The Greenskin's face changed from a predatory look to one of absolute horror. His eyes went wide, and his mouth hung agape. Tiny droplets of sweat formed on his face, and Kalia could almost see the primal fear rippling across him. The Greenskin turned on his foot and fled. He did not scream, he did not flail, he simply ran away. As the Greenskin's shape retreated into the darkness, Kalia felt twisted up inside, as if something awful had been done to her being. The Greenskin had seen something worse, though. Something so horrible that the rational thought, or any thought for that matter, died in its presence. Only instinct and a primal fear were left behind. Kalia could not help but shrug. She felt awful, but she wasn't dead, and she had been objectively successful so far. Hard to argue with results. Kalia surveyed the bay, hoping to find a vehicle to steal. There were a whole mess of bits, and the body parts of a weird Greenskin battle tank in the bay. The fleeing Greenskin had probably been working on this vehicle when Kalia had appeared. The battle tank in its current state could not move, however, and therefore was of no use to Kalia. She moved to the next bay. This one was empty and dark. Even in the dead of night, Kalia could make out the far wall of the bay and saw nothing of use. The next bay also had a battle tank resting in it. This tank was in better shape than the first one, though. It almost resembled a working vehicle. The vehicle stood on stands about 4 feet tall, much in the same way as a mechanic's garage. It was probably a little effort away from being fully functional. However, it wasn't immediately drivable, and therefore useless to Kalia. She quickly moved on to the next bay. Kalia looked out. The next bay had a fully functioning half-track vehicle. It was long and tall, similar in profile to a school bus, and like a school bus, It probably had more than enough transport capacity for her and all of her compatriots. Unluckily for Kalia, the Greenskin half-tracks driver was right in front of her. Like the lookouts, this Greenskin was of a small child subspecies. It dropped a large wrench it held in surprise. Again, Kalia could hear Alma's chiding voice in the back of her head. She thought the small alien could be useful, all things considered, and so tried to scare it with the power of the parallel dimension. Once again, and before the little alien could shout, Kalia pulled in as much energy from the parallel dimension as she could. In her head, she crafted an image of a foul mask for herself, something that would scare the voice out of the little alien and perhaps even subdue it. Her attempt worked well, a little too well. Kalia could feel the energy coursing through her body and coalescing over her face. She could only guess at what she looked like, but she tried to make it as horrifying as she could. The little Greenskin did not shout, even as the wrench rebounded off of his tiny foot before hitting the floor. It simply stopped moving and stood stock still. Like the bigger Greenskin before it, this one also began sweating profusely. Unlike the other one, this Greenskin did not move or so much as blink. It was like the little alien had been frozen by fear. Kalia figured that the little one had been scared beyond the capacity for rational thought and locked up. She knew fear paralysis could happen in humans. Recent events gave credence to the fact that it could also happen in greenskins. Kalia had found out a lot today. She scooped up the little alien, still frozen still, and hopped into the cabin of the vehicle. She set the creature in the driver's seat, noting that the controls were appropriately sized to him. The cabin of the vehicle, and seats for both a driver and an assistant driver, crudely jutted out of the floor, and a kind of archway led into the back compartment. The back compartment was largely open with side rails for people to sit on. Where the compartment opened up, at the back, there was a metal aperture that presumably opened when the passengers wanted out. It was just like some of the transports her compatriots had used. Perfect, she mused. She laid down next to the driver's seat so she could not be seen by most anyone outside. She drew her pistol and waited for the little Greenskin to shake out of its stupor. Assuming Kalia's thoughts and intentions, Alma morphed back into a large hairy spider and climbed up the driver's chair. She hid behind the driver's headrest and easily blended in with the vehicle's cobbled metal frame. She drew her pistol and waited for the little Greenskin to shake out of his fearful stupor. Assuming Kalia's thoughts and intentions, Alma morphed back into a large hairy spider and climbed up the driver's chair. She hid behind the driver's headrest and easily blended in with the vehicle's cobbled metal frame. Like Kalia's pistol, she would be a prodding source of insurance to motivate the little Greenskin. Both Kalia and Alma lay still for a solid 3 minutes until the little Greenskin shook free of the fear-spawned paralysis. It immediately became aware of its surroundings and tried to flee the vehicle. Kalia pushed her pistol into the creature's side, and Alma put a pair of knife-like spider legs against the little Greenskin's neck. Kalia spoke a set of terse instructions to the pilot. You will drive this vehicle out of the base's main gate and hold course until I tell you to stop. You will not act out of the ordinary and make no attempt to escape. Disobey me in any way, and you will die. Understood? Her voice was a little raspy, but still clear. The Greenskin nodded in acknowledgement. What Kalia knew of the Greenskin subspecies said they were relatively weak-willed and were often bullied by the bigger and stronger Greenskin subspecies into subservience. Kalia had never expected that little bit of profiling intelligence to be useful, at least until today. With a sputtering cough, the Greenskin vehicle sprang to life. Its engine shook in a frightening way. The entire front console shook in time with its motions. The vehicle lurched and began moving forward. Kalia leaned back out of sight. She still kept her pistol poking painfully into the Greenskin's side. She needed this to work. There were no other stops for the vehicle. Kalia saw the little Greenskin wipe sweat off his brow on more than one occasion. She heard the little Greenskin speak in its stilted language to the other Greenskins she couldn't see. It said something to the other Greenskins. She couldn't exactly understand what the little Greenskins said, but to her relief, what she did understand was complete and utter lies. Probably to cover up why he was heading out with the vehicle at this late hour. Kalia waited a good 10 minutes after she stopped seeing the mangled parts of the Greenskin base and started seeing trees. Then she waited another 10 minutes more. Then she sat up and pulled out a brick-shaped remote detonator. The little Greenskin looked at it with fear in his eyes, but said nothing. She flicked the detonator switch. Almost immediately, she could hear detonations and secondary detonations over the vehicle's loud engine. The little Greenskin held onto the small steering wheel with a white-knuckled grip. Kalia did not have to look to know of the base's destruction. She pressed her hand to her neck and spoke into her radio. Target destroyed. Secured a hostile vehicle with a captive driver. Rally on me. Her orders were short and to the point. Even though the effort of tapping into the parallel dimension had left her somewhat drained, she still retained an aura of command. Different sounds of affirmation came from the radio, her different compatriots sounding their acknowledgments. Kalia turned to her captive Greenskin. "Stop here," she said, prodding with the pistol again. No sudden moves. The Greenskin eased off the gas and stepped on the brake. The vehicle came to a quick stop. Then, the Greenskin grabbed a lever and shifted it downward. The vehicle remained still, aside from the shaking engine. "Good alien," she murmured. The mission was successful, and Kalia's compatriots were quickly moving to board the stolen ride. The grand mission still lay before her, though, unless the rogue agent did Kalia a service and died to the Greenskins. He was still her problem. Kalia would deal with this rogue agent, regardless of the Greenskins. And that is all for Kalia's story at the checkpoint. There is more, but nothing as succinct as this. The plight of Kalia and her hunt for the rogue agent is a long story, and I will not tell it here. However, if you enjoyed this, please let me know using one of the options below. A subscription will notify you when I have more stories to tell, and the upward gesture will let me know of your approval. The downward gesture is there if this was unappealing to you or unsatisfactory. Nonetheless, there is a space for your comments below. Please, share your thoughts with me and others if you like. I have been Lord Shane, your humble storyteller. For this, your time has been mine, and I thank you for every second of it.